going to be talking about social media tonight. And wow, how far things have come since the first time that I've presented on social media for the Do You Speak Tech. And so I hope that we can give you some new things to think about tonight. I'm just going to move this down here. There we go. So second last one in the session, and then next week we're going to be talking the new normal. So a little bit about sort of the things that have become so much more important since the pandemic. So online teaching, the video teaching, that kind of thing, distance learning and all that kind of thing. So tonight we're going to be exploring and reflecting on strategies for authentic engagement in the target language through the implementation of social media. And we'll be looking at that by looking at what is social media and why should we implement it in the classroom at all. And then looking at social media from kind of two different sides, from both the teacher side and the classroom side. So how you can use that with students. So my name is Stephanie. I work at the Institute for Innovation in Second Language Education at Edmonton Public Schools, and I volunteer for SLIC, the Second Language and Intercultural Council for the Alberta Teachers Association. And it's part of my role here tonight with SLIC to come present the Do You Teach Spec Tech series. So first, just a few questions to think about to get to know sort of your background about social media, and don't prepare your answers, but don't send anything in, don't type anything out until we kind of get to those one by one. This is another kind of number and short strategy you can use for communicating and checking in with students when you're doing distance learning. So your first question is just going to be, what is your favorite social media site or app? So just a one-word answer if you'd like to share with us right now. That's go ahead to share with your favorite social media site or app, whichever one you prefer. I'm going to say, I guess my favorite is going to be Facebook for the most part. Instagram, it's free for personal use mostly. Yeah, right now on Facebook, it's one I use the most. I kind of have some emerging favorites, but we'll see how. Now, is there a social media app that you would like to learn more about? So maybe one that you've heard about, or you've heard your students talk about it, but you don't know much about it or how to use it. I'd like to share that with us now. TikTok, Twitter. Oh, good. We'll be talking a little bit about TikTok tonight. I'm just in the exploration stage as well with TikTok, but seeing it the first few times, I've definitely got some ideas. Now here, we're going to play a little game. Let's see if you can recognize any of these apps. So I'm going to name an app and just type in the number of which one you think this is. You can see the little app icons with the numbers underneath. So let's start with an easy one. Which one's Facebook? Yay, sweet. Your students might actually have a difficult time with that one because apparently it's for old people. So yeah, I age myself there saying that's my favorite. Okay, which one is TikTok? Yeah, it's number 7. You got that right. How about Instagram? At least one of you will get this because it's your favorite. Yay. How about Pinterest? Do you use Pinterest? If you don't, you might be able to guess from the app icon here how don't use it. I've used it a few times to look for things, but I'm not one of those curating boards and using a lot. My sister-in-law, she's a kindergarten teacher. She uses it a lot. How about WhatsApp? Which number is that? It's number 1. It's sort of like a texting app, but uses Wi-Fi and that. So it's really popular with people who have family or friends internationally. And last one we'll try here. How about Reddit? This is one of my emerging favorites, Reddit. Like just reading the stories there. Yeah, so it is number 8, Reddit. Sort of a microblogging site where people share stories or memes or things like that, and you can go and upvote them and see how popular they are. So yeah. So social media, the what and the why. If you've been to some of the previous sessions in this series, you've seen that we've talked about 2 Canadian publications. This one from Consult is the first one on facilitating language learning through technology, so literature review on computer-assisted language learning. And we'll have a few quotes from this kind of sparse throughout the evening tonight. And the second one is from actually where I work at ISLE at Edmonton Public Schools. So literature review on the characteristics of successful language programming. And we'll hopefully see some strategies for how social media can help us successfully target some of these characteristics. And you can click there. This one is free. The Consult one is for purchase, but there's member pricing. It's very reasonably priced. And you'll also see some more on this resource hub. If you don't work for Edmonton Public Schools, you would go there and you can see that there's a lot of other resources there for teachers of all different subjects. And then a little more specific to our session tonight, we're going to be using some research and some figures from this research around understanding the functional building blocks of social media. So the first link is for a science for Business Horizons, and you can go to that link to purchase that issue. And if not, just the sort of the summary of the parts that we'll be using tonight, you can see here at the bottom in this article, what are the 7 social media building blocks. And so that's a little more condensed for you. Like a little more information about that. So before diving into the research and the implications in the language classroom, let's just get an idea about what we're even talking about when we say social media. So here's the definition that you get from Oxford Languages when you literally Google what is social media. So websites and apps that enable users to create and share content or to participate in social networking. So already this very global definition, this very general definition, we can see connection with our language programs here. That idea of creating and sharing content, participating in social networking. We've got that underlying idea of, connection and communication, right? And so isn't that ultimately what we're trying to do with our students, but in the target language, right? We look at the types of social media here. So some of these you may or may not have been aware of. I know for myself, I never had thought about before as TripAdvisor or Yelp as being social media. But when we think back to this, the general definition about it being that social networking, and so that idea of people connecting and sharing their ideas and sharing content, it makes sense, right? And so same with Etsy, Airbnb. So those are social shopping or sharing economy. And what are people doing with these types of social media? We're talking. Start with the first one here. So social networks, kind of that typical Facebook and Twitter. It's for connecting with other people, right? Where we're going to go and form these communities with other people. Media sharing, we're looking at just sharing videos and photos. So when we're thinking about like Instagram or YouTube, social media sites for sharing. We're looking at consumer reviews. That's again about sharing, but about sharing an experience, right? And giving your opinion about that experience. So discussion forums, we're talking about Reddit, Quora. So sharing news, sharing ideas and opinions. So we see this thread of connection and sharing coming up again, right? And then for things like Goodreads, those interest-based, like sharing and connecting with people who share similar interests, right? So blogging, we're looking at commenting on content or creating and sharing content, right? So sometimes if you're a blogger, you're creating and sharing that content. Sometimes if you're a consumer of blogs, you might be going there just to comment. So the social shopping, right, is about discovering, buying and selling goods and services. And then like Pinterest and that, this bookmark or content creation about discovering, saving, sharing content. So we can see already here some things like the types of things or that we would like our students to be able to do in the target language, right? To be able to create content, share experiences, connect with other people, be able to discover or to buy and sell goods and services, right? Something super concrete in the target language that we would like our students to be able to do. So going to the back to the sort of the research here about the functional building blocks of social media. The research has kind of parsed out these kind of seven functional blocks, right? So that social media is about presence, about knowing if other people are available and like where they are, basically. It's about relationships, so relating with one another, which also kind of relates to groups, right, and forming communities. It's about this reputation, so knowing where other people stand socially and where the content stands socially. And I think that we've seen this one, you know, especially in the last few years, politically become very much ingrained in social media. It's about conversation and communicating with other people and sharing or exchanging and receiving content, right? And then finally about identity. So about revealing yourselves, you know, who you are, and what you're about. And so this is kind of what social media, like the function of social media and why people are engaging in social media, right? And so again, we can see these threads that connect to our language programs, right? Our goal as language teachers is that students be able to relate to and function within those target cultures, that they be able to build their own identities about who they are and, you know, discover their community and you know, form groups, find their place in the world, right? And doing that, you know, through learning the target language and about the target cultures. So looking at something like YouTube, where do you think the bulk of the function should be placed? Like which one of these blocks, you can just enter that in the chat one word there if you'd like. Where do you think the main function of YouTube sits? So presence, identity, relationships, reputation, groups, conversation, sharing. It's got one vote for sharing here, one vote for reputation. I think on the main level, there's definitely some layers to what the function is, right? The main is about, you know, creating videos and sharing them with the world, right? And so that's going to definitely be sort of our main function, but we can't discount the rest, right? There's so many different layers. So this idea about the reputation and the social standing of groups, I mean, it's even built right under the video. You've got the likes and the dislikes, right? And so that's definitely, you know, a layer of YouTube. So is the group. So finding groups and, you know, subscribing to channels that have similar interests as you, right? And then a little bit of that conversation piece where you've got kind of the in the bottom with comments, right? So there's some conversation going back and forth, right? So definitely, not to say that the other three aren't a part of YouTube, but I think that we've kind of got two main layers here. Now looking at Facebook, which one do you think would be sort of that main dark blue block of that first layer of what is the main function of Facebook? Ultimately, Facebook was created for people to one vote for relationships. Yeah. So yeah, I think that we can easily see that you know, we can imagine that the main function of Facebook is about cultivating relationships, right? But we've got, you know, other honeycombs here. And I would even argue, so this figure was copied from that research, which is already a few years old. And I think that the the groups piece has become even more, in the last few years, even more important and even more ingrained in what we do with Facebook, right? And so belonging to groups so that you can collaborate with others who share interests. I know that in the last few years I've joined, now that I've had kids, I've joined some mom groups and joined some teacher sharing groups, and those have become a lot more prevalent in the last few years. So I would almost color that one in as well. And then this piece about identity, I mean, with Facebook, they literally warn you when your friends' birthdays are, right? And so you've got your birthday, you have like your past and present workplaces and things like that. And so we can see that identity is really kind of deeply ingrained in what Facebook is about. This presence, so like checking into things. This reputation honeycomb, I think, has gotten more sophisticated in the past couple of years with the addition of different reactions. So you can not only just like something, but, laugh, give an angry reaction and that kind of thing. And so, yeah. Okay, going back to a little bit of understanding about what is social media. I have to put this in there because I know that when I'm talking with my mom, she just can't comprehend what is a hashtag. What is it for? She doesn't understand. It annoys her. And so I hope that I can shine a little bit of light here on it. So a hashtag is a user created meta tag. A meta tag is sort of like giving a search term for your social media post, saying like, I want it under this conversation topic. Sometimes sometimes it's a literal conversation. So for example, with the hashtag LangChat, that's a specific time weekly that language teachers throughout the world meet on Twitter. And there's a moderator who gives questions, and they have a topic and you can answer, and they share back and forth. And so it's a conversation via Twitter, and you access the conversation and are able to read them together by accessing the hashtag, right? But it's also sort of just a way of giving your post a title or giving it a topic, so that if people wanted to just go and kind of scroll through and see what are the MFL Twitterati talking about, then you can do that by going to the hashtag. Okay. So why social media? Now we have a little bit of an understanding of what it is. Why are we bringing this into our classroom when we can't deny that screen addiction, and more specifically social media addictions, are problems in our society, and especially for young children? And so we want to be cognizant of those downfalls, and we want to be cognizant of not giving too much screen time, and we also want to take advantage of the benefits that social media can bring into the classroom. So while it's important to be mindful of the technologies you're bringing into the classroom, it's also important that when you are bringing them in, you're being mindful of how they're being used to build language proficiency. And so if we're not building language proficiency, then maybe that screen time or maybe that technology isn't needed, right? One of the benefits of using specifically mobile devices in the classroom is that it helps encourage both the learner autonomy and collaboration among learners. So it's interesting that it can kind of get at both sides of that coin. So social media by nature is collaborative experience. And so by bringing it into your classroom, you're not only bringing that outside world in, but you're also providing opportunities for students to bring that learning home with them, like literally in their pockets. And that's encouraging more self-directed language learning, right? I mean, we can't deny that technology has changed what literacy and communication means nowadays, right? We communicate in different ways. And what really resonates with me is this last part in bold about the online affinity spaces. And when we're connecting students with these spaces, these are where people from different cultures and different language backgrounds are going to come together and share together, and they might share interests, right? And isn't this really what we would hope to achieve with our language programs, that our students can connect with people from different cultures and different languages. And oops, sorry, I didn't mean for these all to be animated. When we go back and think about the functions and the building blocks of social media, we see these connections to our language curricula already. So not only are these the types of things that students are doing in their own time, in their real lives, quote unquote, but it's and in their first language, but these are the kinds of communicative functions and tasks that we would want them to be able to do in the second language, right? If our goal is that students be able to use the language outside the classroom, then we need to acknowledge that the world outside the classroom has changed very rapidly, especially recently. And you know, out there, we are engaging with written content in new and different ways every day. So by integrating these social medias and these new ways of integrating or of engaging with language into our classroom, it's going to motivate students, right? And when we're motivating them, we're going to be, you know, improving their language learning. And we're not just increasing the motivation, you know, connecting them with social media is really connecting them with speakers, with native speakers of the language, right? And this is going to, you know, give them more motivation again, more confidence, but we're really getting at that nuanced understanding of the target language and its culture. And that can be difficult to achieve in a second language classroom, especially if you're like me, a second language learner. So French for me is my second language. And so I come as a learner teaching the children about the language and the culture. And so connecting them with people who live that firsthand is really going to help give them that more nuanced understanding. So while we can't discount the importance of increasing student motivation by incorporating their interests and connecting them with native speakers, I think it goes beyond that because we're breaking down the barriers between the classroom and the real world by bringing in these social medias. We're connecting students with native speakers, engaging them with authentic culture and content, and asking them to produce the language in ways that mimic their real lives. So you're bringing the outside world into your classroom and you're extending their learning beyond the classroom. So for both students and teachers, you know, engaging with social media can help with this piece of fostering a community and also lifelong learning. So not only, you know, as a language task for students, but also, you know, as a teacher, if you're often as a second language teacher, you may be the only, you know, French or you may be the only Spanish teacher in your school. And so reaching out via social media is going to really help with that, you know, finding a community and finding people that you can collaborate with and connect with. I found this graphic quite interesting. Just it's the reach of social network sites. So meaning like, for example, YouTube is reaching 77% of the 15 to 25-year-olds in the US. So if you're 15 to 25, 3/4 of them are using YouTube, right? And so you can see here sort of some of the popular social medias. From some anecdotal evidence, just like from former students, and that Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn are apparently for old people. Um, so I'm wondering if maybe it's because this research is for the 25 group, and maybe that kind of 20 to 25 group is, you know, a little more into Facebook. I do know a lot of my students have Facebook, but they say they don't use it. But you can see here as well, like something like TikTok is already reaching 1/4 of the 15 to 25-year-old age group. And that's a fairly new app. And so they are, you know, our students are quite adept at just at jumping on something that they really like, right? So one way to kind of get around this whole oh, you picked the wrong app, madame or monsieur, like you're not cool, you chose Facebook, and our class doesn't like that, but maybe another class will, who knows, is to sort of not pigeonhole yourself with one specific app. So we're going to talk about some strategies later on, but it's a great idea to give students a choice. So instead of saying like make a Facebook post or make an Instagram post about this topic, maybe try something like make a social media post and give them a few different templates that they can try. Okay, let's look at social media for teachers. So for teachers, we're looking at social media, using it in a different way than what we're going to be using it with students. We're really looking at this idea about community connection and lifelong learning. So a few ideas for engaging with social media. We'll look at specifically some ideas for Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube in a couple minutes here. So when I think about social media for teachers, I think about like lifelong learning, or really like free PD. That's what we're really talking about, free professional development. You can join a language chat on Twitter. You could join a group for language teachers on Facebook and share with them and get ideas, or watch tutorials on YouTube. And then follow language education or ed tech leaders on these platforms and just kind of see what they're putting out there. And you'll be surprised at how much inspiration and how many ideas that you'll get, even from an ed tech leader that I follow who teaches English language arts in grade 2, was posting an idea that I thought right away, oh my gosh, that would be perfect for my French grade 8s. And so you just never know. Got a few communities here on Facebook that I link to. So if you're a teacher of French second language in Alberta, there's a great, relatively new group that's been started. So people will post if there's a great free PD coming up, or if they've got a project idea they'd like to share. A lot of times there's a lot of questions. So does anybody have a project for, the grade 8 clothing unit or things like that? And so people will go on there and share ideas and share resources. There's also kind of a similar one for Spanish online collaboration, and that's for teachers of Spanish who are teaching distance learning or teaching online. This new one not a new group, but one new to me, is this Google Classroom for Modern Foreign Language Teachers. So it's based out of the UK, but a great community for that melding of technology and languages. And then if you're a French teacher, this Mani Musicale is a great group as well. So it's a task that they do every year. So again, crowdsource ideas from colleagues, simply ask them questions, get inspiration from them. You'll see that there's a lot of amazing things going on in some really cool classrooms around the world. And you just might be able to not only get the inspiration, but literally get the presentation or the website or the project outline or whatever it is that you need. So like really saving yourself some time. So there's so many languages and ed tech leaders that you can follow on Twitter. I total plug here for my work, ISLI. But the reason I put it is because when I was thinking about which people to suggest that you follow, if you go there, you can look at our followers, and there's quite a lot of them are great people to follow. So just read some bios and see what might interest you, and go ahead and follow us. We retweet sort of the best of languages and educational technology. You can scroll through a hashtag for inspiration. So if you teach FSL, there's the hashtag FSL chat. MFL Twitterati, so is one started by actually a participant in some of our sessions, Joe Dale, and they have a podcast, which is pretty cool. So I link that in there. And it's kind of one of the largest hashtags for teachers of foreign languages throughout the world. That's kind of the big ones. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to scroll forward. Oops. Let's get back on here on the admit. Got a new person coming in. And then some of those hashtags are on Twitter are actually like the weekly chat. So the MFL chat, which is kind of linked to the MFL Twitterati, is Mondays 8:30 to 9 UK time, or language chat, Lang Chat, Thursdays at 8 p.m. And I just put a little video in there on the Twitter chat basics, one, so you can get an idea if you've never done a Twitter chat, how it works. I will warn you, one, they go super fast. So the first couple, it took me maybe 3 or 4 just a following to kind of understand how it really worked. So don't be upset if it takes you a little while to figure out how that works. But also I put that link in there as a reminder that if you'd like to learn more about Twitter chats, then you can check on YouTube, search YouTube for a tutorial. So And we've talked about looking for tutorials on YouTube before. We had some ideas in session 4, which you can get from that, the link to the document there, of some people you can follow. And here's a new one, because we've talked about Edpuzzle a few times, and there was a new one on Joe Dale's channel about using Edpuzzle, but specifically for language teachers. So yes, the video is 44 minutes, and I know that I've said before, stay to 10 minutes or less, but this is not a simple introduction video. He does give the overview and does a demo of how to use Edpuzzle and shows you how to use it in the first 10 minutes. And the rest is some testimonials from language teacher explaining how they use this in the language classroom. And so some, really practical strategies. So definitely worth the 45 minutes, in my opinion. So we're going to switch gears now and talk about social media for the classroom. So now that you've got some strategies for how to get some free PD and collaboration and connecting with others via social media for teachers, we're going to look a little bit more about how we can do this as a using it in the classroom. To get comfortable here. So again, always harking back on focusing on the communication and just sort of keeping these functions and the building blocks of social media in the back of our minds while we're designing tasks to use in the classroom. So it's important that we're not using social media just for social media's sake, right? We want to improve language proficiency. Again, I know I say it so many times, but it's because it's so important. The language learning has to come first. Secondly, most important is preview everything closely, every single second, every frame, every word, and just make sure that what you are bringing into your classroom is appropriate, both for the age of your students. You just don't want to be that teacher that ended up in the news for showing something super inappropriate. I think that especially nowadays, our attention is being drawn to what we may have shared in the past that is not, maybe wasn't super appropriate. And so we just need to be very cognizant of that. We want to make sure that we're not offending any of our students, that we're offending any of their families, or offending anybody that might happen to stumble across this task, that's not in your class. And so just, keeping that in mind. Student privacy and information is a concern. So you want to make sure that when you're using apps and things that you're thinking about that. And we're going to talk about a strategy. I call it the copycat strategy later on. That's going to kind of help with that, making sure that you're not having students sign up for a TikTok and an Instagram and a Twitter account and all these kinds of things that are putting their information out into the world. And then adapt the social media post for the classroom. So you might add questions, you might add some notes, you might turn it into an exit slip, turn it into a task. You're going to extend the learning. You're going to take a written post and give the students a reading task and then a writing task. And then how do we turn this into a conversation, right? You're going to extract it onto a classroom-friendly platform. So it's not always appropriate to just bring up TikTok in the class or to bring up, Instagram. So maybe you're going to extract that onto a shared slideshow, a classroom blog or website, your learning management system, whatever. And then copycat it. So we're going to talk about that in a few minutes here, but it's a strategy for kind of having the upsides of social media without the downsides. So using authentic materials is going to motivate learners and also provide that linguistic and cultural content that's more rich than the content that's made for second language learners, right? So we're talking about authentic content made for native speakers of that thing, so mother tongue speakers. And by connecting our students with these authentic resources and these online social spaces, we're not only making the learning more dynamic, but we're also going to promote critical thinking. We're going to give them more authentic learning. And really encourage these sort of like deeper connections with the language and the culture. So some examples of how we can connect students with online social spaces, or how we can bring these social spaces into the classroom. You could follow some celebrities in the target language. Maybe you're doing a lesson on a song or a filming class. Well, you can go lurk, search out those actors and singers and artists on Instagram and YouTube, and see what content could be appropriate to bring into the classroom for more and for extending that learning, right? Or for using those tasks, using that language, that authentic material for more tasks in the classroom. So maybe you find an Instagram post from a singer that you're following that you've done a song about. Maybe the students could write a comment for that post. Maybe they could choose their favorite post from a series and then justify their choice. So a series from one specific artist, or a series from different artists, or maybe just series YouTubers, whatever that is. They might respond to it in writing or speaking form based on a prompt that you've given them, or create their own post with kind of a similar theme. And so we'll talk about some of those a little bit later. And one way to get them to, so when we say, for example, get them to comment on this Instagram post, I don't mean get every kid to create an Instagram account, go log on to Instagram, and then go comment on Maître Gims, who is a very famous French singer, French rapper. Go copy, comment on his post, and then you've got to go sift through the million of public comments to find what your students have done. We're not doing any of that. We're going to copycat it. So copycat is a task that mimics this social media trend that might be popular at the moment, but we're putting it in a student-friendly platform. So we get all the engagement and that language and authenticity, but minus most of the hassle. There's never no hassle in teaching, right? You're going to be protecting student privacy and minimizing all those student accounts. So they're not creating Instagram and TikTok and YouTube accounts and everything else that they're then that you then have to keep track of, so that you can go look in these public comments and track them down, right? We're going to facilitate student collaboration. And so, so the students are commenting, but they're in their own class or in the groups that you've assigned them, right? And then again, that finding the student work, so finding their comment or finding their post, it's going to be much easier to have it organized for you to find it and then mark it once you have that, in some kind of student-friendly platform that's, that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. I've got some specifics. And then save yourself some time. You're going to create those templates once and then reuse them again. I have a star there because we're going to talk about templates later on as well. So when we're talking about learning content or learning grammar, the research is pretty clear that collaboration and context are key. So in order for students to learn grammar, it's much more effective if what they're learning is in context. So it's in some kind of real life task that has them collaborating with each other, and as well as has that sort of range of multimedia. That's going to be the most effective when we're trying to get that, get students to learn how to use the language effectively. So one way that we can get at that is having students, comment on Instagram posts or create an Instagram post, or sort of that media sharing, where you not only have the image, right, but it's the description, and then going to read someone else's post, post a comment, and then maybe have that kind of back and forth written exchange, right? And then maybe later have a conversation about that. So some ideas for copycatting Instagram. You could do a shared or individual slideshow. So for example, Google Slides or PowerPoint, whatever, you give students the slideshow either individually. So for example, if they're doing a series of posts on their own, or shared with the whole class. If you, for example, have a writing prompt or an exit slip and you want them to be able to see each other's posts on that topic, they're going to put their image and text on the slide and then use the speaker notes to comment and like other posts. And I'm actually going to show you an example here in a few minutes with that. So I'll just kind of give you some more ideas for the Instagram copycats, and then we're going to go actually do a shared slideshow. So individual doc, you could make like a Word document or a Google Doc where you have your instructions or a screenshot of the post you want them to discuss at the top, and you make a copy for each student. So that's the template, and then underneath they're gonna, type their written response to that. So you can share that via Google Classroom to make a copy for each student, or however you do that in your learning management system. And then also Flipgrid and Canva are kind of great for that as well. So Flipgrid is creating a post, but it's with video, and then they can add images onto the video and text as well. Then they can like and comment on each other's posts, and so that's a great app, and we'll do an example here soon. And Canva is great if the students, for doing all of these, when they're, especially the slideshow, if they don't want to insert an image that they've taken themselves, then you could use Canva. It's like a poster creating website, and it's free for educators. So you can create social media posts, website banners, and whatever you want. So here is a link for you, and then I'm just gonna pop into the chat. That's one. Heck of a link that I guess. So this is a slideshow. I'm gonna grab this one a sec because that one looked weird, and I'm just afraid it doesn't work. So I made this last night. I just grabbed the background that's one of the backgrounds from Google Slides, and I went into the View Master. So I changed it to purple instead of brown, just so that it was more Instagrammy. And then I added these little kind of icons at the top. And I made the first two hyperlinked so that if someone were to click on them, they would, when it's in present mode, it kind of acts like a little more interactive like. So if we click on the home button, it takes us to the first page. The message one, it opens an email to me. And then the circle was for if the kids wanted to add like their own, if you wanted to add your own like image or profile pic or something. So I added mine in there. And so you'll see, I also deleted all the rest of the slides. So when you go to the little down arrow, there's the title, instructions, and Instagram post. So I did that all in the View Master and changed it. And so this is a way of kind of getting students, and you can see here, they would, each student is going to add their own little slide, and you're going to put in your name, and then you're going to insert an image. And again, you could go to Canva, or you insert one from your phone or whatever it might be. They can even just search the web, right? So I'm going to search Tomai, and I'm going to say like this, if this was French class, then I would say it in French, of course, but I would say like, whoops, this is my favorite French singer artist. And hashtag Tomai, hashtag Papaute, hashtag whatever, right? And then later on, when everyone's kind of entered, then they can go through this slideshow and use the speaker notes to kind of like or add. They can add little heart emojis to say like, I've liked this one. And that kind of thing. And so you've got them all together, and the people can, collaborate on this, each create their own post. And if you want to copy this slideshow and use it, like, go for it. It's all yours. I put my little profile pic, just want to use from the slideshow, and then I just linked it to my Instagram. I was just kind of thinking of, what else can we do to kind of make this fun? And then if I was in class and I wanted to like search for specific hashtags, you go Control F, and then I can just put the hashtag, or I can start to actually type in a specific one. And then it'll take me to the next slide that has a hashtag on it. And then kind of one little thing I like to do whenever I would do a slideshow with the whole class is whenever you're done your post, they can add one decoration to the title page. So they can add another hashtag, they can add an icon, a Bitmoji, whatever. Right? And so that's just one way of like copycatting a social media post, but using the slideshow, right? So when we're talking about so-called computer-assisted language learning, talking about using it for speaking tasks. This is when we're using technology for speaking tasks, the research is showing that it's really helping students with the confidence and willingness to communicate in real life, as well as with their fluency in the target language. So one way to get kids to use technology to do a speaking task is to have them do like a YouTube or a TikTok video. So here's some ideas for some copycats. So again, the shared slideshow would work exactly the same, except, I would make it look different. This looks like Instagram. I would open up YouTube and, choose the background that's red and make it just a little bit different, look like YouTube. We can even like do that here. So I would go to master. I'm gonna take one of these kind of blank slides and just copy it. And then I'm actually going to go look at like, hey, what does YouTube look like when I click on a video? And it's kind of got like the video in the center. And then it's got
hello there. And
so it's got the video and then it's got the name underneath. So, right, it doesn't have the name at the top and then it's got the description underneath. So maybe I would here add, I'm just going to take this out. So the title is actually going to go under, and I would maybe insert a little text thing here, and I'm actually a text box saying like, insert your video here, right? I would obviously make this look better, and then I would insert a little, I like subtitle plate because the body one is like annoying, and I would say, and that's for them to enter their description. So then when I close this, I would rename that like YouTube post or whatever. Here, so I can see insert your video here so they know to paste it in there. This is where they would put their title, and then this is their description. And then, when we're commenting back and forth, it's in the speaker notes, right? And so same thing with the slideshow. The other thing you could use is Flipgrid, and this is a really cool new and free for educators app. Oh, yeah, before, before we demo Flipgrid, just if you're not sure what TikTok is, I don't know why that came up. So TikTok is an app where you have these like short little form videos. So they're like 15 seconds or like 1 minute. And they like sharing. So kind of like Instagram, but for little videos. So one example is this super popular hashtag. It's called chaotic energy. And the idea is that you would make a little video of something that would have you like something in your real life that would have you like getting really chaotic and getting crazy. So here's one example.
I'm the damn guy. Full hard like a Lando magic, pull out the tin, call me go gadget. It's A-double-Z-A, but my name's not Aaron Rude, but I never say that.
That's it. That's all TikTok is. So these little kind of short little videos. So a little bit humorous, a little bit kind of like real life. And here's this other one. Now, at first glance, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of language here, but I would really like you to, when I'm playing this video, really look for the language that's on here and think about that for a second. I'm just gonna get this page.
I'm the damn guy. Full hard like a Lando magic, pull out the tin, call me go gadget. It's A-double-Z-A, but my name's not Aaron Rude, but I never say like hatchet. Talking like you're off and you're moving, but we know that you ain't slacking. Ain't trapping, don't know why these men are...
Right? So we've got these few little kind of subtitles. So me scrolling through TikTok and then like mom pulls up and then, oh, me, cleaning the house frantically or whatever. Then we've got her little like description or her little like kind of tag, anyone else in chaotic energy. And then plus whatever the people are commenting back and forth, right? So it's a little bit of language, but in a 10-second video, right? And so because it's so small and because it's such a small amount of language, but it's very, very authentic for our students. It's going to be something that you can do kind of over and over again, right? You give them a different topic or a different kind of hashtag that they have to act out or create. And you've got these tasks that you can reuse over and over, right? So even though it is small, it's authentic and engaging, but they're also kind of revealing a part of their daily lives. And that's bringing the language home with them, right? They're bringing that language learning home. And I think that's really powerful for students to engage in creating the language when they're not in the classroom, right? Okay, so Flipgrid, here's the link, and I will also copy it in for you. Oops. Oh, it's gonna make me this way. Just a second, it's giving me a bunch of garbly-goop, and I'm just gonna delete that out of here. There you go. So Flipgrid is a free for educators app. It's a copycat for Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, etc. So you post a prompt, which could be written, and students are going to respond with a video. Then they can embellish that video with text, emojis, and things like that. They can also like, comment back and forth, things like that. And so I don't know what happened to all my text here. My slideshow's gone all wonky. I'll fix it later. So I posted one here. Just explore it. So just have fun. Just open up Flipgrid and say hi. You can record a response using your phone, using whatever you'd like. I'll even go in there and put one in for you as well. So I'm going to get out my phone and do a Flipgrid. So for example, we do these now when we have people in our office who retire, and they'll do like, stuff that so-and-so says, and then everyone will go on and do like a little, 10-second impersonation of the person. And so that can be kind of fun. And so you can just sign in with Google, which is nice. So it's everything that's, in the Google kind of sphere. And so you're not too, I set this time limit to 3 minutes, but you can make whatever time limit you want. You've got some effects, the filters, you can add GIFs on there. Like, it's pretty neat. Add a little rainbow filter. Hi, thank you for connecting with us on Do You Speak Tech and for trying out Flipgrid. I hope that you find a use for it in your classroom. Have a good day. We have someone in our... Welcome, Joe. We're just trying out Flipgrid here. Welcome, Joe. We're just trying out Flipgrid. You missed us plugging your new YouTube video about Ed Puzzle. I watched that last night. It was really good.
Fantastic.
So I've got my yeah, it was amazing.
Have you only just started, or am I late?
No, we're just about done, but that's okay because you can always watch it later, right?
Oh, sorry. Sorry. In my head it was always that it started at the same time, because normally it starts at 11, doesn't it?
We had time change, so I think you guys are only 6 hours ahead now.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's okay. Never mind. Okay, it would have been nice to have seen it live, but yeah. Okay.
Oh,
never mind.
Too bad. We gave you a good plug, though.
Thank you.
I watched your Ed Puzzle video last night. It was very good, so I posted that up for them.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, and now I can save that video. So like with Snapchat and that, you can save the video. Return to topic, and there we go. And so it'll just take it a few seconds to plug in there, but yeah. So it's kind of a neat way to just fake any of that video sharing, right? Give me a couple more minutes to check it out. And then I've just got a couple more copycats to show you here. We're talking next about copycatting blogging sites, because those are, Pinterest. And sort of those content curation websites. And so when we're looking at those, we're really trying to promote collaboration and that interaction that's going to be authentic for students. It's not only going to reduce their anxiety and motivate them more, but it's actually going to help them learn the language. So a few things that you can do for Pinterest. So we've got Flipgrid and Padlet there again. for kind of sharing different content and things. When you're doing a Flipgrid, you can record a video that's students could explain why they're sharing this content, and then they've got a place where they can share the link to something. So that's kind of neat. And then Padlet, we took a look at the last session, but I'm going to bring it up again here. And we've done Jamboard as well. The limitation with Jamboard is you can't share links or videos. So it's just text or images, and you can also make shapes. But for Pinterest, we've got Padlet. This is also a really good, or also an option for if you have, or if you want to copycat YouTube, because if people put a YouTube video or like copycatting a YouTube playlist, they could put a YouTube video up on there and be able to share it with everybody, but you don't have to go into YouTube to see it, right? So this is the dashboard. You can just make a new Padlet. This again is just with the free version. Share anything. Share a link to a website that you've got open, a YouTube video you've listened to, a TikTok video, whatever you want. So when you click on the little settings here, what's pretty cool, so besides, you know, the title and description, I can also change the icon. So I just put a little video because I had shared a YouTube video, but whatever you want your, you know, board to have. You can also customize the link, which is neat. So I customized the padlet.com/Steph and then the DYST for Do You Speak Text. So it makes it pretty cool. I can even see here already that somebody's adding in a note. So that's awesome. Changing the color scheme. Now it's really cool that mimics the social medias. We can add comments. And then you can choose a reaction. So you can only choose one, which is too bad if you want to like actually grade the post. But I would suggest keeping Padlet not grading. So not putting that number of you got this much. One, because it's in front of everybody. And then two, because you know, maybe keep this for more of that engaging, like star upvoting, liking, that kind of thing, that mimics more of the social media. And then if you've got kind of a naughty class, you can require approval and moderate things before they go up. So that's really cool. Yay, a whole thing about editing master slides and Google Slides. That's awesome. So yeah, this is from Manny Musical, like Kinvi. I love him. He's hilarious, except he's the one that taught me the lesson of previewing every second, because there's a song from his Aladdin musical. And I just thought that, I mean, it's Aladdin, it would be okay. And the last few seconds of the song is a lot of swearing. So, surprise. So next, talking about blogging. So why would you have students blog? Well, when when conversation partners or learners are creating a product like a blog or a video or something like that, or a podcast, it gives them a deeper understanding of the target cultures as well as their own culture, which I just find super interesting. So copycats for blogging. You can use blogs, just be careful which ones you're using. So we're not necessarily using WordPress, but maybe Kid Blog or Blogger. So where it's a little simpler, student friendly, and can just be shared with the teacher. Lucidpress, and I put the link there for Lucidpress for education, which is free for educators. So they've got templates there for any kind of written visual content you can think of. So social media posts, booklets, flyers, whatever. And then again, you could have students do the slideshow idea. So if it's a shared slideshow or an individual one, so each complete slideshow is like a blog, and then each slide would be the different page. And then when they share it with different classmates, they can comment back and forth in the speaker notes, kind of like how we saw earlier. And then just finally, before we end here in the last few minutes, so using, yay, my video now made it onto Flipgrid. So looking at the using technology to develop intercultural communicative competence. We're talking about connecting students to other fellow, other speakers of the language, whether that be native speakers or not. But native speakers are really, and heritage speakers are really going to give that rich linguistic, rich language, I guess. And so one of the ways of doing that is through social networking sites. And the reason why, that's part of the reason why we're trying to copycat all this, why we're going through all of this work. So a few strategies for the process when you're doing these copycat templates. Choose a couple formats, like I'm going to do a Flipgrid for this, I'm going to do the shared slideshow for Instagram, whatever. Create 1 or 2 templates, not a whole lot right away, and then assign the task to students. And then, like we talked about in the very beginning, maybe let students choose which social media template they use. So instead of saying, create a Facebook post about ABC, it's create a social media post and here's some templates that you can use. So not only is that going to increase engagement and authenticity because the students are choosing what is more authentic to them, it's also going to hit that differentiation piece. It's really part of that one of the pillars of universal design for learning is that students get a choice in how they're demonstrating their learning. So having those multiple formats is also going to enable you to maybe like gently suggest to students who are working above or below grade level a certain template, which might have some, different expectations. So you're not sort of picking them out saying like, oh, you're the student that needs to do the different one because, your language proficiency is way above or below the rest of the class. So once you have the kids do that task once or twice, then you're going to tweak the template because you're going to find things that work and things that don't work and things that you want to add or change before you kind of, settle on what that template looks like. And then, choose your next one. So for example, some templates you can make, we did that Instagram one was sort of like a series post, the shared slideshow here. So like if you want one person to do a series of posts, or if you want the class to kind of add a bunch of posts together. You could also create a slideshow or whatever, kind of template you decide on a doc for like an Instagram profile. So like where they would put, a profile picture and their little bio, and then they've got some posts with the descriptions and things like that. So just some considerations. Again, the language proficiency, how is the task improving the language proficiency is going to be first and foremost in our mind. And like what social media functions that we talked about from the research in the beginning, what functions of social media am I incorporating? Are the students sharing content that they created? Are they giving their opinion or idea about a topic? Are they connecting with other people or discovering a new product, right? And what social features of the app can you copy? So that idea of like the sharing content with others, the oral conversations and written exchanges, the likes, the upvotes, the comments, that whole networking, connecting piece and interaction piece that comes from social media, what can you build into your slideshow or into your Flipgrid and make sure that they're getting that experience, right? So that the copycat rings true. And then how can you make it engaging? So it might be the colors or the graphics, animated images. The fact that Flipgrid has filters, your kids are going to go nuts for that. It's going to make it 10 times more engaging than, a slideshow or whatever. Automatic video playback. So in your slideshow, so that when you go present, as you click through the slide, the video automatically plays, and it's kind of like flipping through the TikToks, right? So, how can you fake those engaging features? Just kind of think of that when you're trying to build a